Just talking musicals, musicals with you.
Hello, I'm Lesley Anne Knight, and welcome to the Just Talking Musicals meetup, where I get to have a quick catch up with some of today's outstanding theatre professionals from the West End and Broadway. On the other side of the Zoom window today is an award-winning actress with an enviable theatrical CV, whose first job after graduating from Rose Bruford College was with the Royal Shakespeare Company in Adrian Mitchell's Alice in Wonderland. From there, her career has gone from strength to strength, with standout roles in Ragtime, The Light Princess, London Road, Sweeney Todd at the English National Opera, the Threepenny Opera at the National Theatre, City of Angels at the Donmar Warehouse, and the much anticipated Sondheim revival of Company in 2018, playing the lead role of Bobbie, reimagined for the first time as a woman, playing amongst a world-class ensemble cast that included none other than one of Broadway's living legends, Patti LuPone. Rosalie Craig, welcome to the meetup today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Well,
it's nice to hear about what I've been up to my whole life. Sometimes it feels I haven't done anything, so that was nice.
Oh no, well, yes, needless to say, I am a big fan, and it's so wonderful to meet you. Well, on the meetup, we have 7 questions, and the first of them, of course, is because we're talking end of July 2020, and the most sensible thing to do is actually ask people, what were you working on when the COVID lockdown took place earlier this year?
Of course. Well, I was in the revival of City of Angels, which we had sort of never thought was going to see the light of day again, because we finished it in, I'm going to get my dates wrong, 2016, 14, something like that, at the Donmar. And then actually after we finished Company, Josie rang me up in about April time and said, we've got an opportunity to do it in the West End. And I was like, what now, after all these years? And then all the stars aligned, and then we were probably about a week away from our press nights. So we'd been feverishly working away in rehearsals, and we were in tech, and we'd done about 2 weeks of previews, and we'd gone in on the Monday for working notes, and Hadley and I are married, so we were already at home that weekend sort of talking about, is it okay to keep performing at the moment? What should we do? And we spoke to Josie over the phone, and Nika Burns, our producer, came in on the Monday, and it was like a moment in theatrical history for us that I don't think I'll ever forget, because we all went in and we were sat in the auditorium, and we were all given our radio mics, and the working desks were out in the auditorium, and we were due to start working notes. And then Nika came in and spoke to us and said, I think it's fine to keep going on. And a lot of us were going, we don't think it's fine. And then we all went off in our little union groups to talk about it. And then we walked back into the auditorium, and there was quite low lighting in there anyway. And one of the sound guys put on Boris Johnson, his live 5 o'clock announcement about the fact that we shouldn't be performing. And he never said don't perform, but he said, I think we shouldn't. And then it was so extraordinary, because nobody moved a muscle. Every department was sat in the audience or on the stage listening, most people with their head in their hands. A lot of people very scared, because he was saying, if you have vulnerable people, get to them now, we're going to be in lockdown, sort of thing. And then Hadley and I just went and cleared our dressing room. It was just so, because we just thought, well, we don't know when we're going to be back, but we should aim, not being pessimistic, we should take some of our stuff. And then Nika obviously looks after Jamie in the West End. Everyone's talking about Jamie. So she said, let's all come to, the Garrick Theatre Bar and have a glass of champagne, which ended up being actually the most non-socially distanced sort of last hurrah. I was like, this is completely not, this is the absolute opposite of what we should be doing. So a lot of people went out till very late that night, but we've got a little girl, so we headed back home. But it's very strange to think that was, I don't know, I just don't think we anticipated it being this long.
No.
The fact that they're talking about, in fact, we had an update only yesterday from Josie, the director, and Nika, sort of saying, we want to come back, but how do we know? It's probably going to be next year. But had we known that we finished in March and then looking at a year away, I think we would have all gone, no, let's just keep performing, you know. And
Yeah.
she was going to film it that day as well. But
Oh,
I know, we were going to capture it. So we just had our version. But I mean, I wish we'd sort of done that without the audience in a way, actually. I hope that we can still do that.
Because it was only due to run till September, wasn't it?
That's right.
And so one can hope, if it was, because the West End's a funny animal, isn't it, with runs and finding slots into theatres to find them. So if you've got a show that, because you've been waiting, this show has been waiting for a bigger theatre, hasn't it, since it was at the Donmar. It just, the people that you've got behind it, the production team and the cast, everyone involved, it just tells you that, it's got to happen again, because it's just must be in a bigger theatre and in the West End. It just, and the fact that you didn't get a chance to film it means that it will have that edge, so that people believe that it needs to be done.
I really hope you're right. I really do. I mean, the thing is about it, you know, you get a mixture of, when you do different jobs, you think you can take them or leave them. But this one was really, really special. We were having such a gorgeous time, and we'd improved it. I mean, the stuff that had been changed in terms of the set and the visuals. So there was lots of video projection that had just, it had been it was so clever. I just think, oh my goodness, we were so excited to share it. I mean, I know it's a minor thing really in the grand scheme of the world and the pandemic, but I really hope you're right. I hope we can do it again. I think we wanted to video it just so we could remember what we'd made. Yes. You know, like, what did we do here? You know, we felt like it's a very strange time, previews, because you're the momentum of them, and also you're building on the magic and what you're learning after each performance every night. You're like, right, that didn't work, or you've got into a rhythm of your comedy or your co-stars that you're just going, right, okay, so we're gonna play this moment like that. So to take the momentum out of it now, I think we really would have to go, you know, back into rehearsals to try and create that magic again. And who's to say who'd be free to come back to do it again, I think, which is the one thing that makes us all feel a bit, we want to come back as that unit.
But we're living in unprecedented times, and I think the shows that people were doing when it happened remain strongly in people's hearts, and so hopefully that will have a magnet effect on these shows coming back. The other thing I wanted to ask you, which is a bit left field, is, as a performer, when you've got everything so ready to roll, because you'd done previews, hadn't you?
Yeah.
You were just there, just about to go for it. And had you done your press night, did you say?
No, we were a week away from press, yeah.
Yeah. And when something is stopped like that, where does that leave your lines in your head?
What, as it, remembering them?
Yeah.
Oh, well, do you know what? Normally I think I'd be able to remember them all, but I think and I think for the first sort of month, I kept sort of going over them in my head, or the song, because of course with the songs you have to sing them back into your voice, and
yes.
And they all sit differently. I remember when we started rehearsals, I was thinking, oh, crikey. I don't remember being able to sing that, you know, and so that's months of work to get it into the voice again. So I think that I would I sort of can't remember my lines now. But also because I'm getting out of practice of, normally I'd be doing a show, and then I'd be doing, you know, auditions for auditions, or maybe I'd be, you know, booking my next job, or doing readings of things, or that muscle seems to be very lethargic right now. It's, if I'm having to learn anything for anything at the moment, it's taking 4 times as long, because my brain's going, oh, I really can't remember how to do this.
It's exercising that, it's the muscle, isn't it? And I think we always think, well, I've forgotten it, that's it, it's gone. But yeah. It doesn't, half a day, and you're back into it, then you know that's...
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like listening to a song on the radio, you think, oh, I sort of know this, and if you sang it 3 times over, you'd remember every word, wouldn't you?
Yes. But it's exercising the muscle. No, it's fascinating that. Yeah, because you don't want to let go of them, do you? You think, no, it might be coming back into this again. I mean, this extraordinary circumstance that everybody's been in, and theatre seeming to be at the bottom of the pile on coming back to normal. Are there things that you think that are still outstanding that, you know, the government can do? Okay, there's been some funding, but for the industry in general, or just for the community, the theatre in general, what can be done at this point, do you think?
Do you know, I think a lot of it comes down to communication. I feel like in the arts, especially in theatre, we are the last to know about everything. And we're the worker bees, aren't we? So I know the institutions have been saved by the government's funding. The institutions themselves, I know lots of redundancies are happening. But I think as the artists who work inside them, we seem to be bottom of the list. And that's even when the industry's up and running. So I really wish we had some sort of idea of what do these government guidelines mean, because they're saying that open air theatres can open, or normal theatres can open come the 1st of August. But what does that mean? Does that mean you can do a play? Does that mean you can have 2 people on stage? I think because the government culture secretary doesn't really understand theatre, and isn't really not really talking to people who are inside the industry. They don't really understand the ins and outs of how it works. I mean, I genuinely think we could be rehearsing things now, or at least working towards auditioning or rehearsing things in a socially distanced way, if possible. You know, you could rehearse a play and discuss it, do your scenes mindfully so you're apart. I mean, I was just saying to Josie this morning, we could re-rehearse City of Angels again, because a lot of the scenes are two-handers.
Yeah.
You just take all the intimacy out, which we know, which you don't normally do in the first few weeks of rehearsals anyway. You bring that in at a later stage. You're not just going to throw yourself at someone in a room. I mean, you hope not anyway. It'll be a bit awkward. So I feel like this muddiness around the singing, because they're worried about people singing in terms of singing together or singing out into the auditorium. Now, the thing is about singing one-on-one, as you well know, it's no different from when you speak. You're spitting all the time on stage anyway. And I worry about the orchestras and the band specifically on our show, because they'll be playing, but they've got the back of their heads to one another. And if they've got screens either side, that could be done. I just don't think the government are allowing the people who make theatre possible, who make the impossible possible, an opportunity to do that now, in terms of thinking about how to restructure the theatre, because we are the most inventive people. We would find a way. If they said go for it, then we would find a way. I mean, the reality of it, you don't really spit on people on the front row.
Yeah.
And they'd be wearing masks anyway. I mean, we're sitting on bloody planes together,
yes.
Literally closer. If you don't sell the drinks and everything, and, you know, I don't understand. There's a lot of toilets in the theatre. There's one on an aeroplane, two on an aeroplane.
Yes, I had that conversation with somebody the other day. Yeah.
If you get down to the nitty gritty, and I feel like, I think we're divided in the industry. I don't know whether you'd agree, but because there's lots of us who feel that it could be possible, and we are going to have to live with COVID-19. We're going to have to live with it. So whether we start back now or we start back in 6 months, it's probably not, the landscape is probably not going to be that different. The difficulty is knowing if people are going to be able to travel, because we are funded mostly in the West End by tourists, is a great concern. But I think we should be trying. We should be trying. Regent's Park are doing Jesus Christ Superstar. I would personally love to be doing, you know, any form of a concert in a theatre, or play readings in theatres that people can come and listen to. You know, I think there's ways. Every artistic director I speak to is saying, we can do this. It's just, they need to help. The government need to allow us to do it, and trust us that we know our profession and know what to do, and we will work around these guidelines, and we will make it safe, you know. But if they can't trust us with that, I literally don't know what we can do. I mean, I even chatted to my agent yesterday, and just things like, it's just heartbreaking to think that we wouldn't be back. We're not going to be able to be in a theatre properly until next year. It just seems so far away. I, for one, just, I mean, we won't know what's hit us when we get back inside, will we? We'll just all imagine seeing a musical or being in a musical for the first time. We're like, oh my God, we'll be able to cope.
I think the emotional aspect of it as well, it's not like going back to work in a lot of people's lives. And I think people who work in the arts, yes, it's a precarious industry, but you're doing something you absolutely love. And the community of people that you work with, it's more of a family than people can imagine. And I think the emotion attached to returning to performance and returning to your theatre family is huge. It's going to be one big party.
It's going to be huge, isn't it? But also, one of my greatest pleasures about performing is working with an audience. Yeah. I mean, genuinely, if I think back to even like the last few performances of City of Angels or Company, especially, I felt like my colleague of the evening was the audience, because I just used the audience all night long. That was my acting partner. So I was thinking about it the other day, just thinking, oh my God, I miss that so much. And it's not about, as you well know, like standing up and showing off. It's about having an experience together and just being it. Like, you can't, the only way you can talk to them is through the show, but also you've got an understanding of like, oh, we're doing this together sort of thing. It's just, there's nothing like it, is there? There's nothing like it.
It's electrifying.
It is.
Now, talking about the happier side of theatre, my next question on the meetup is, what's your favourite show of all time? Now, because this is just talking musicals, I'm thinking musicals. So whether it's something you've been in or a show that has really made you go, wow.
Oh my goodness. Do you know, I've got the most incredible memory of Oklahoma with Hugh Jackman in. I mean, it's just, I haven't really thought about that. I was about to say my favourite one to have been in. Oh, it's so difficult to pick, but I think one of my absolutely extraordinary memories was being in London Road. That was, I'm always nostalgic about that time. I'll come back to that, but Oklahoma, I just remember, I was a student at the time, and I mean, I'd watched a lot of shows with my parents. I don't really think that we'd been to London that much, really, as kids. I grew up in Nottingham, and we'd seen shows maybe that had been travelling around, like Miss Saigon and various things, and gone to all the local shows at the Nottingham Playhouse or the Theatre Royal. But I remember just sitting there thinking, this is insane.
Beautiful, wasn't it?
Oh, wasn't it beautiful? I thought he was phenomenal. I thought Josephina, when she did her ballet, I mean, I just couldn't, you know, she's in like otherworldly.
But now, wasn't she the first person to play Laurie and do the ballet?
Exactly.
She was, wasn't she? Yeah.
I mean, what a gift. And she's such a lovely lady as well. I mean, I sort of can't believe that, which is, you know, thank you for this. He's making me think about, oh, now I know her, you know, but you're just like, but not like, oh, I know her. It's just like, wow, as a student, then you get to actually meet these people throughout your life and your career. I just thought it was, I mean, it was one of the most, my memory of it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And it was just a big, gorgeous, massive musical. And there's a lot to be said for that. I haven't done many of them, but I love watching them.
I think it was the Queen and Princess Margaret's, one of their favourite musicals when it first opened in 1943. I think they went to see it when it was in the West End, and I think I may have that wrong. The Queen will write to me.
I don't think you have. I think you are a whiz at this.
But that was one of their favourite musicals, and I think they went. The Queen went to see that production as well, and. It was magical from start to finish. I mean, Maureen Lipman as Aunt Ella, and just the way she inhabited her character, and the way she talked to me about the way that the voice coach, I was it Patsy Rodenberg? I'm not quite sure who the voice coach was on it, but she said she was talking to the cast about how to find the Oklahoma accent and how to think of their voices as a letterbox show.
Oh, wow.
And to think about the wide open expanses of Oklahoma, and then to find the accent from the wide open spaces. And the reason I'm telling you this is because she said after one of the performances, Tony and Sherry Blair came backstage, and they all had to line up to say hello. And Sherry Blair said to Maureen Lipman, "How did you find your accent so cleverly?" And she said, "Oh, well, because we were taught to just make our mouths go like letterboxes and go, ah," and you know how I shouldn't be saying Sherry Blair, her and so she said she sort of stopped herself in mid-flow explaining how to find the Oklahoma accent, but
she was going to say it's a bit like your Sherry. Yeah,
so you could do it easily. But getting back to that everybody, the dance in that, it was just beautifully directed. And Hugh Jackman, from the moment he walked on stage, he had everybody in the palm of his hand. I mean,
it was an extra. No, there's no wonder he is an absolute. There's no wonder that from that he became Hugh Jackman, because that's the thing, wasn't it? That was the performance that people went, "Who is that guy?" And then from there on in, I mean, it's very strange because often I'm watching like animated films with our little girl, and I'll think, hey, that is an amazing character. That's an amazing voiceover. It'll be Hugh Jackman. You think, the man, there's just no end to his talents. He just keeps reinventing himself. It's just, I think he's, it's wonderful when somebody really shines like that, and then their careers just don't stop, you know.
No, because sorry to interrupt. I was going to say he'd been on Broadway before, and then because he'd been in musicals on Broadway, I think The Boy Who, and I don't know what brought him over here as such, but it was being on stage in Oklahoma that he was seen by the producer of the X-Men.
Is that what it was?
As far as I know, yeah.
And then they come and do this film.
Yeah, then he became Wolverine.
Wow. That's unbelievable, isn't it? That's the stuff that dreams are made of. You're like, oh, that would be absolutely ideal if that happened, actually.
But it's all about that thing with your career where you have an idea about where you want it to go, but people always say don't specify. Don't.
No, absolutely, because you're absolutely right. You have to live in possibility, don't you? Because the thing is, if you cage yourself into a box saying, but I want that, you know, how do you know that there's not that? There's not X-Men waiting for you over there, but also that age-old rule that you never know who's watching you. You never know, which is why, you know, as we do, sometimes you're not well enough to go into work. It's devastating, partly because you think, oh Christ, I missed my one opportunity, or but yeah, you have to show up for every show, don't you? Not just for that reason, but just, yeah.
And it's so special anyway, isn't it? And I think that's what comes across if somebody is a wonderful performer, it's because they really do genuinely love performing in the theatre. And that's the other thing you were talking about, working at the National, because you've done quite a bit at the National, haven't you? And that's London Road that you were.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I'd wanted to work at the National since I first came to London. I didn't know what the National was. I was totally green. I was like, that building there looks real. And then I went to go and watch Candide there. Again, that was amazing. And then fell in love with the place and kept going back to see more and more and more things there. And then it was just, I spent about 10 years in the industry just banging on about, I just want to work at the National. I don't care if I never do anything ever again if I just work there. And then I did work there. And work there for, you know, I've got to try and muscle my way back in there, actually. But I genuinely do. I'm going to have to, you know, bake some cakes and come up with some ideas. But yeah, my goodness. And I remember auditioning for London Road, and I was at Bristol Old Vic at the time doing Swallows and Amazons. And I think Tom Morris, who I was working for, might have had a great hand in me getting that job, because I remember going back and forth to the auditions and thinking it was the weirdest audition of my life, because I was sat in the little casting room and I was thinking I had to learn this, what sounded like a weird excerpt of music, just thinking, and I was getting people at the show to sort of, and they were going, are you sure this is right? And I was like, yeah, this is obviously, because we hadn't really heard of a verbatim musical before, or and Adam Cork's music is so intricate, and it was obviously based on speech patterns and the tone. So I learned it and thinking, I've got no idea if that's right or not. And then it turned up and they said, rather than here's your script or here are the sides, just put this thing in your ear. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, listen to this. And then after 2 seconds, start talking as if you are that person. But then you've got to listen. They were trying to teach me the verbatim how to do it for the audition. And I went in and I thought, well, that was an absolute disaster. And then I remember Rufus at the end going, it's really good to meet you. And I thought, well, that's it. You know, they only say that when you're never going to see you again. Really great to meet you. Really great. You're like, oh, I haven't got it. Really great to meet you too. Best of luck. And then I think I was on hold about that for about 3 or 4 months, because I was, little did I know at the time that Rufus went, yes, we should definitely have Rosie in it. But she's at the time I was about 15 years younger than any of the other cast members, so he was just scratching his head going, I just don't know if we can. But then I think they just went, oh, sod it, just put her in it. And it was just, we had no idea what we were part of. I remember speaking to Paul Thornley before we started rehearsals, and the night before, and he said, this is going to be the worst show we've ever done, but at least we'll have a bit of a laugh doing it. And then we did our final run through, and Nick Heitner was running the theatre, and he watched it and he just left. He was silent, and we were like, well, that's awful, we've got to start previews. And then the first preview we did it, and it was, of course, because we couldn't concentrate. It's not like normal where you're thinking about your performance and what you're giving, and it was entirely, have we got the accurate verbatim right? Have we, you know, you couldn't miss a beat in that show, otherwise the whole song would fall. If somebody went off, you were like, oh my God, now I've lost my place. It was a massive like jigsaw that had to be stuck with super glue, basically. And then after the first preview, just going, it was silence, and then it was in the Cottesloe, when it was called the Cottesloe. The audience just, I'll never forget it. And we just stood there going, oh my God. And then they were on their feet, and we were just standing there thinking, oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. Oh God, it's brilliant. And then, because also it's not really about our performances, it was about what it was about, and about these people in the community. And then it just went mad. And I'd never been part of anything like that before in my life, where it just literally, this sellout show, you know, everyone wanted to hear about London Road. Oh my God, you're in London Road. You know, it was, and we were so close to, when you talk about family, I mean, we are all so close still. That was one of those casts where they just felt like an entire family, and they still do. You know, we'd literally do anything for any of them. We all go and see each other. It's like in everything. Oh my God, I miss them all. I had such a good time.
Isn't that wonderful? But you see, the other thing is about London Road and what they put on at the National is it must have been such a gamble to put that on. But for but for anybody who doesn't know what it's about, what's the, in a nutshell, what's the story there about London Road?
Yes, very good. So the story of London Road is about the Ipswich murders, which but sadly all the prostitutes that were murdered in Ipswich, and it wasn't essentially, the subject matter was about that, but it was about the community. It was about the actual London Road where the murders took place, and it was about the community that lived on that road and how they dealt with the devastating news of the fact that they lived on the same road as the murderer, and some of them were next door neighbours, and also the fact that it brought them together as community, and they had, a garden growing competition in order just to create a sense of growing.
It brought everybody together, didn't it? Because they didn't want to be associated with something that was so horrible.
Exactly. They were trying to reinvent their road by growing beautiful things and regrowing their sense of community, and as well as dealing with the fact that, you know, it was a terrible, terrible tragedy what had happened. It was such a, I think Alecky Bly and Adam Cork handled that story with such grace. They really did, because
I was going to say, because it's a story of hope, actually, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a story of hope. It wasn't like we're going to talk about, but it was respectful towards the girls that had lost their lives and their families. I know their families really struggled with, the idea of a musical being put on about the murder of their children, which of course you would feel like, please don't make light of it all. But I think some of them actually saw it and thought, oh, it's actually talking about it, we wanted to represent those girls and how much had been lost in their lives, through them losing their lives, but also by the fact they've fallen on hard times and gone down that route,
Yeah. And it was made into a film, wasn't it? And you made it into, and in fact, all the cast, didn't they make it into the film as well?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we as these things work out, you never end up sort of playing the part that you originate in these things. They get someone famous to do it. But we were just happy for it to be made, to be honest with you. There was no, I remember when we were in performance, when Rufus said, we're going to try and make it into a film, that we had to film one night after 2 shows. So we went round, I know. We were filming at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I remember Kate Fleetwood and I filming on the back streets of, where was it? Borough or somewhere. And it was like, what we do? I mean, we were hysterical, but that's the thing, because we were all so committed to it and so in love with the project. And she had like a newborn kid at the time as well. I'm just thinking about it. I was like, hang on a minute, your baby was like about 6 months old, but there she was, 3 a.m.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Incredible. Amazing. Okay, well, I suppose we should get to our next question.
Yeah, sorry, I do
too
talk.
carried away. We've done 2 shows, favourite shows, brilliant. Who's your favourite artist yesterday and today in musicals? There's a big question.
It is a big question, because I don't think it's very difficult to sort of have one, because I don't sort of watch one person. I think I watch people as a collective or a performance. It'll be a specific performance. It won't be a performer. I don't really have a performer that I've gone them, or that's very me. There's people that I'll see in various productions. Like I've seen Jenna Russell in so many things and just gone dreamy, absolutely amazing. All over the years I've seen, oh my goodness, it's so hard. I genuinely don't think I could pick one. I suppose I'd have to say Patti.
Yeah, I wondered if you'd say that.
Yeah, because I just don't think there's anybody like her. But also the breadth of work that she's done, and also she's still bloody going, and she's got 2 hip replacements, and she's phenomenal. She's a phenomenal actress, a phenomenal singer. Oh my God, but then I'm thinking about, like, I love one of my pals, Josie Walker. I think she's incredible as well. Such a fine actress and a beautiful singer. Judi Dench. Oh my God. I mean, I can't, because I want a chocolate box of them all, really. And there'll be some men in there as well. You see, I loved Simon Russell being in Candide, and he's an amazing actor as well, isn't he? Oh my goodness.
Okay, who inspired you when you were growing? What made you get into theatre? Who inspired you to do that?
Theatre. Just theatre itself.
Really?
The whole, it wasn't a specific person. I didn't watch one person and go, I want to be you, I want to be like you. It was just the whole atmosphere of it. I used to go to the Playhouse with my mum and dad, and it was the smell of the brochures, the tickets, the smell of the theatre, the event itself. Oh my gosh, I used to watch Susie McKenna as Principal Boy in Nottingham Playhouse Panto. There you go. And I was like, I want to do that. And she used to slap that thigh, and I used to think, oh, I want to be that person, and
I was at the Panto when I had the same thought. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't wait to get on the stage. It's like, I want to be up there.
Yeah, me too. It's almost like you can't breathe, isn't it? You're like, I need to be up there, I need to be up there. Yeah.
I'm in the wrong seat.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah. Oh gosh, that's exactly what it is.
And that's why panto, being such a British tradition, it is amazing because it just goes right back to our roots, doesn't it? The performing variety in this country, it's panto. You don't get it anywhere else in the world, do you?
No, and I think it is. I know there's a lot of sort of snobbery around panto, and people often go, "Oh my God, panto! You're not going to go and do a panto. You're not going to go and see a panto." I bloody love it. It's one of my favourite things in the whole world, and at some point I will do one. I really want to get it. I feel like I've got to get it right though. Oh my God, I get so excited going to see it. I get so excited. I think I still get almost more excited at watching a panto than anything else. I love it.
Yeah, and there are some fantastic ones. And of course, you've got the perfect person to take with you now, haven't you?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And actually saying that, last Christmas, she came to the Nottingham Playhouse, which was amazing. With me and my mum took her and we sat there. My mum just turned around to me. Elvie was just at the stage and my mum went, that's you. That's what you did. Just can't breathe. All the other kids are like talking, eating sweets and waving their things. She's like, up there. I was like, yeah. It's in her. Whether I like it or not, she's just gone, or she's got some sort of, because she's from Hadley and she's gone, that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, lovely. See, I love the answers I get to my questions. We go in all sorts of wonderful directions.
Yeah.
My next question is Broadway or West End?
Oh, now. Well, it would be West End. I still haven't done Broadway yet. I've played BAM out there with the Royal Shakespeare Company, but that's not Broadway. I would love to do Broadway. I was hoping I was going to do Broadway, but not so much. So I guess I'll have to do that when the time is right, or when I'm lucky enough to get a job over there. But I mean, the West End is, I don't think I have done that many shows in the West End. I've done more in the last few years than I've ever done. I was in Hecuba at the Noel Coward yonks and yonks ago, and I don't think I did anything until Lord of the Rings, and I was trying to get back there. And then I guess I did The Ferryman, then Company, and then City of Angels. So it was all like back to back. And I didn't have, like, Hadley always talks about his sort of hedonistic days in the West End of going to all the bars and in Soho as like a 20-year-old and just spending all your wages and doing all that crazy stuff. And I suppose I never had that. I was sort of in the regions and.
But you ragtime at Regent's Theatre must have been lovely.
Yeah, well, that was gorgeous. I had a beautiful summer there. I didn't know what it would be like performing in those conditions, and it was magical getting to sing Back to Before under the stars. It was wow. That was a real special moment doing that.
And that's a fantastic space there as well, isn't it? It's a proper theatre. When it's up and going, it's wonderful. I think of that as West End. I know I'm probably,
Do you?
Yeah, in my
Actually, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's not on Shaftesbury Avenue.
Yeah.
No, the class of the productions.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, I suppose so. I was very excited to get the job. I was like, oh my God, I've got ragtime. I remember that thinking, no, I can't wait to play this part. And we had an amazing time doing that. Amazing. Most of my jobs have been like that, though, to be fair. I can't really sit down and say, oh God, that was awful. Or, I mean, I'm sure there have been some, but so I hope to make it over to Broadway, but so West End.
It's the West End is your answer. I'm not surprised. and of course I have to go back to your moment in Company, because that must have been fantastic. What was your first night doing that like? Because everything was fantastic. The set was amazing. Everything, it was so cleverly done, wasn't it?
So cleverly done. I mean, Marianne is one of the cleverest directors on the planet, really. She's incredible. And we were all so excited and so proud to share it. I mean, it was mad because Sondheim was in the audience, but he'd been in our previews anyway. So we were having little notes filtered through, or we'd be in like dress runs and he'd be in the auditorium making notes and they'd get passed through to us.
Did you dread his notes?
I did, because I just didn't want to let him down. That was it. And I just thought, oh Christ, please be okay, please be okay. And the thing is with Steve is that he's very harsh. You know, he doesn't beat around the bush, and especially not at his age or his experience or his level of genius. He just tells you like it is. So they're hurtful notes, you know. So you have to be careful with them. So they get filtered through to Marianne and then pass through to us. So they didn't just basically send us off spinning that way going, oh my God, I can't do it. But Marianne is incredible because she notes you so well that you actually are thinking mainly about playing the notes rather than the event itself. Because I think that first show, I sort of couldn't believe it was happening. I was like, this isn't, you know, we can't go back from here. Like, this is making history. But I didn't think of it like that at the time, because obviously we're going, oh my God, that piece of set's got to move there. And we'd been so well rehearsed and we knew it inside out. But when I came to sing Being Alive, and I didn't even get to the end and the audience were up on their feet, I think I just burst into tears. I was like, and Marianne came to into notes the next day, and she just said, she was noting, she was very calm, like, we'd had a great show, but we've got to build on this, and, you know, that was the first preview, that audience are very kind. But then she got to that bit and she just went, I'll never forget it. She just said, that when the audience got up, she was up on herself going, yes, Rosie, come on, like that. It's like a football match. And I was like, oh, I'm so pleased, you know, because it felt like that, you know, whatever happened on the job and whatever sadness I have about some areas of that, and I'll always have that moment.
Yeah.
That was just incredible. And I'm so lucky that I got to be the first female Bobbie. I have no idea how I got that fortunate. It was a gift and I'm very grateful for it, and I would gladly play that part for the rest of my life. I really would. I had the best time on it. It was quite lonely because you don't get to have all the interaction with the rest of the cast, really, because you're constantly out that way and they're having their fun together. But that's what Bobbie is, you know. Bobbie is, Patti always said to me, he is on the outside the whole time, and they get to do all the stuff. Essentially, she's a narrator of the piece almost, and then with massive songs in between. But it was an incredible time, that. So yeah, and the Gielgud is just,
it's a beautiful theatre, isn't it?
Stunning to play. I luckily just finished The Ferryman, so I knew how to. I felt like I was ahead, you know. I was like, why would I not go and do The Ferryman? I can get used to the whole theatre before I play it, you know, and play an amazing, completely different piece of theatre there beforehand.
It's funny with company and changing the main character, because you've probably talked about this a million times, but I remember when I read that there was going to be a woman playing Bobbie, and I thought, okay. And it was when, you know, it's 2 years ago now, and, you know, everything is changing and everybody's changing roles, and you think, well, sometimes it just does, you know, you've got to face it, it doesn't always work.
That's true.
And you question whether the person who wrote it really wanted it like that. But when you've got the person who wrote it who's sitting wherever they are in the theatre, and they're going along with this fantastic idea, whether was it his idea to do it or was it Marianne's?
No, it was Marianne's, but I mean, we had to wait for months for him to say yes. Yeah,
but it fits like a glove. It's almost like it was better your way, and I'm not saying just because I'm talking to you, it's just absolutely worked, didn't it? It made complete sense.
Yeah, and I think he felt like that himself. I mean, I think he watched the film that we made for him of the workshop, and he watched it with some younger friends, and they were like, Stephen, this has to be made. This makes, also it turns your sort of vintage piece, and it brings it bang up to date, and it couldn't be more now. You know, this is like putting you in cutting edge theatre again without having to do anything, like a couple of rewrites here and there with one of the best directors in the world. Just do it, you know. And he was like, I think he was so in love with Marianne, he would have just let her do whatever he wanted, you know. And who isn't? She is who she is for a reason. So to have his blessing, but also for him to say at the end of that first preview, he said, I never understood Bobbie before, Rosie, but I understand Bobbie now. And he said, and I know we were having drinks in the bar, and then he said, Bobbie should have always been a woman. Now I know Bobbie should have always been a woman. I was like, but Stephen, you know, back in the day, Bobbie had to be a man. Otherwise you've been like way out there. It would have been like, what is this? But he just went, yeah, no, Bobbie's a woman. I was just like, and now I die.
Yes, it's quite funny how you think that. But that's on a par to hear your story. Not that I've actually spoken to her, but the Judi Dench story about when she sang Send in the Clowns, and really? He was in the auditorium and she asked for notes, and at the end of it, and he said, no notes, it's yours now.
Makes you want to cry, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like your story. They're together. They're lovely, aren't they? The fun because you know that you know that you've taken on the notes, and I think his notes. People always say they dread getting their notes from Sondheim, but the thing is, if you're working with him on something, you're already at that level, aren't you? You're already right up there. So he's not going to say, "Oh, I think you're marvelous." He's going to say, "No, this is the point," because it's working right into the context of it, isn't it? And I suppose if you can't take you kind of expect it, don't you? And did you ever get any notes that didn't make sense, you didn't agree with?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm a real sort of believer in that you get noted for a reason, and a lot of actors go, well, didn't I do that? Didn't you see that? Well, obviously not, because now you've been noted on it. Or you're like, well, I wasn't really going for that. And I just think, well, we're not watching ourselves. How do we know? Yes. When we were making the album, he would sort of pipe down the earphones to me, and it would be like there was pronunciation stuff where he wanted me to change certain ways that I was doing things different. So that was quite tricky, because then we go back to doing the performance that evening and I'm thinking, oh, I've got that, but that's for the album, that's not for this, you know. But again, you know, getting that experience of making the album, I was so happy we could make an album, and that he was going to be there to make it with us, and he'd be on my cans talking to me. I was like, oh my God! You know, I was like, this isn't my life, you know. Yeah. But it was. Oh, thank you for reminding me how magical that was. It was such an extraordinary time.
I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to sit here and talk to you about it. It's fantastic. Regretfully, we come to our last question.
Oh my goodness, already!
I know. And it is, if you were to write a book about your life, what would it be called? And what would your favourite chapter be, Rosalie Craig?
Goodness. What would it be called? Comparison is the thief of joy. That's what it would be called.
Yes.
I learnt that the other day, and I think that oh my goodness, I think I would write heavily about just being yourself and trying not to compare yourself to other people in this industry or looking over your shoulder, because I think that's the thing that really takes the joy out of all of it for us, and we lose sight of everything that we love or everything we achieve, or the fact that we are complete individuals. And that's why, you know, I'm not like Maureen Lipman, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we do the same job. And that's the beauty of it, is that you can do this wonderful job. And what would be the point in sitting, and when you're so different, what would be the point in sitting there going, but she's got that job and she's got that job, which I've done 90% of my career, and I'm just coming to the point where I'm stopping doing that, because I've realised that has robbed me of so much joy. I think I'd probably like to talk about my favourite chapter. Oh, it'd probably be about when I met Hadley. in Birmingham. Or I'd probably heavily write about my experience on Company, to be honest with you, because that was just, every day was like opening an advent calendar. You don't know what was behind it. It was like, what present is behind here today, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever write a book, but you know, if I were to, well, I've got Patti's book on the shelf there. Yeah.
There you go.
Gosh, she looks so different on that. But yeah, she wrote a book, didn't she? But she's Patti LuPone. Let's not forget. Let us not forget that legend.
Well, and let us not forget how fantastic your good self is, actually. And watching you on stage, I saying that comparison is the thief of joy. I must say, I just sat there in awe and watching you as Bobbie, and I just thought, that's how to do it. Thank you very much. And it is wonderful, because I've studied singing and performance and all the rest of it, and when I mean, like I've become a theatre fan and all the rest of it, and I write about it, but when you sit in the theatre and you love what you're going to see, but you're going to see something that's slightly different, and then you are blown away by performance, it's like, oh, thank you very much. So talking of, yeah, thank you, Rosalie Craig, because I was so delighted when you said yes to meeting up on Just Talking Musicals. I thought, I can't tell you how thrilling it is to have met up with you today, so thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about it all. To hear you even say that is just, it's so wonderful. That's just so wonderful that you felt like that. And also I'm sitting here going, how? Like, I don't think I did it. I just went out there and did the show. But I mean, it's amazing that you had that experience sitting there. So,
but you see, that's what you were talking about earlier. It's the balance between the performer and the audience and the conversation you had with us in the theatre that night. Yeah. And that's what you were doing that every night. And that's what makes it great. So thank you very much. So Rosalie Craig, thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful stories today and for being my very lovely guest on the meetup today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Just talking musicals with you.